Hello, I'm Peter from Film 392, and today we will be looking at two art institutions and their efforts to preserve disappearing media forms, starting with Vulnerable Media Labs.
My name is Susan Lord, and I'm a professor of film and media and the director of the Vulnerable Media Lab. This is part of the Vulnerable Media Lab, this room. It's a research environment and a teaching environment for the restoration, preservation, and digitization of audiovisual heritage. We do a lot of work with students and with researchers. We have visiting artists in residence every year, and we treat old films and turn them into digital objects. And we also activate the archive. So we have an archival system right next door, which is a vault full of 16 and 35 and some Super 8 audiovisual materials. And we invite students and others to go in and snoop around in there and see if there's films that they want to show and kind of reanimate and bring out to the public. So the Vulnerable Media Lab is inside the film department, which is inside Queen's University. And as we know, universities right now are struggling financially. And there's a lot of emphasis in funding for universities, a lot of emphasis on the sciences and not so much on the arts and humanities. And so if I was going to describe what the Vulnerable Media Lab is struggling with most, it's related to the funding imbalance, let's say, within the post-secondary education environment. And then if I want to be really specific about it, there are two areas that are most difficult for us to address, I guess. One is the issue of rights holders, copyright issues, intellectual property issues with the material that we have in the vault. A lot of that material was acquired for very specific purposes, like for teaching, and not acquired for public screenings or things like that. A lot of those materials were distributed by organizations that no longer exist as organizations, so the distribution rights aren't clear. So there's that issue. And we really believe in and want to support the artists' communities, the artist distributors, and the artists themselves. And so it's important to us that whenever something is shown, that we pay for that. So where do we get the money for that, right? How do we get the money for paying for those rights that we believe should be paid for, that the artists should be paid for their work? So that's one of the biggest challenges, I guess, is money. And the other part of money, of course, is making sure the students are paid, the students who do the work in the lab, because the lab is really run by students. I'm the director or co-director with Jen Kennedy as the other co-director. And we spend most of our time researching and trying to come up with more funding so that the students who run this place, who do all the work on caring for this old media and restoring it and so on, that they have some kind of income from that work. So I guess one of the biggest challenges is economic. Now that you've been here, this place belongs to you too. So you just need to learn how to use the machine. That's it.
Next, we'll be moving over to the TED Center, home to the Modern Fuel Art Gallery.
Hi. Absolutely. So my name is Maddie Andrews, and I'm the Executive Director of Modern Fuel Artist-Run Center. Modern Fuel is an artist-run center in Kingston, Ontario that seeks to facilitate the presentation, the interpretation, and the production of contemporary visual, interdisciplinary, and time-based media. So what that looks like, hosting exhibitions throughout the year featuring local and extra-regional artists who are either emerging or mid-career, hosting residencies where we turn over our space to artists to produce work, hosting a variety of professional development workshops or workshops that engage the community, things like that is what keeps us busy. We are the only artist-run center in Kingston and actually serving a pretty broad geographic area from about Peterborough through Ottawa, so it's covering about 300 kilometers of geography here in Ontario. So we see a lot of rural communities as well as folks from Kingston participating in our programming. Yeah, and I guess I can also add that we really advocate for artist rights and seek to advocate for like best standards of practice with artists, so paying artists in alignment with the CARFAC recommended fee schedule, things like that. I would say our biggest challenge right now is too few staff members to support our work, and that's caused by limited funds and resources. So we, as a charitable institution, are currently quite reliant on government grants, and given the current socio-political economic climate that we've been seeing increasing grant cuts or limited opportunities to apply to. And so that's been impacting the scope of our operations in terms of being able to have a full-fledged team. Right now, I'm the only permanent full-time staff member, and then I'm supported by student workers or contractors who come in to help us out, which is wonderful and allows us to do what we're currently doing, but our organization should have a more fulsome team than that. So I would say that that's our biggest challenge right now is diversifying our revenue streams and budget to include things like private donors, cultivating sponsorships, things like that, so that we can hopefully hire more people and be able to do the work that's so important for the community to an even greater extent. Of course.